My name is Paul Tazewell, and I'm the costume designer for Wicked, the movie. I was invited to design Wicked. John Chu reached out to me. I was super excited to be able to retell the story that has been a part of my life for such a long time. It was probably when I was 16 that I was offered the first opportunity to design a musical, and that was The Wiz. So it's kind of a great full circle moment. I'm working with the same story, same characters, different interpretation, but 33 years later, here I am. It's 8 months to a year of pre-production before we start building costumes. Where I start originally is to pull together visual images I feel connect to how I might imagine what this world will be. The cast is surrounded by spirals because that design element was adopted by Nathan Crowley as well. I very intentionally used it. Glinda's pink bubble dress, the silver and crystal slipper, the shapes, those are all based on a spiral. There was a lot of research and development for Elphaba's costumes. I knew that I wanted to use textures reflective of what I had found in images of fungus and tree bark. For every one look, there was always going to be 3 dresses made because we would have the hero look for Cynthia, and then we would have a second in the event that something happened to that first, just as a backup. So if the sleeve got torn or she was splashed with something, so that we weren't holding up the camera. And then there was a stunt double, although Cynthia was adamant about doing as many of the stunts as she would be allowed. But yes, for the number of costumes, we always needed to have 3. There were primary shoes that were designed, as there were primary dresses specific to Glinda's wardrobe. It was imperative that everything that was in her room, in her dorm room, looked as if she would actually choose it and wear it. There are the dresses that they dance kind of during Popular, and that whole scene was really delightful.
Becoming popular. Lar.
When her wardrobe opens up and spits out different pieces of clothing, all of it sparkly. For Popular, I made the decision to design a silk teddy that's embroidered with butterflies and lace that has kind of a butterfly pattern, topped with a dotted net peignoir. And it's inspired by the Hollywood glamour of the 30s and 40s. It's really specific to that silhouette. That was what I was trying to evoke. There's an emotional arc that's created by the choices that I'm making as far as the clothes are concerned. They're different reflections of who these women are and what their style is. And as we move through their year, they're also emotionally changing. Some of those crowd days where we had all the dancers on set, there were at least 300 uniforms made. My intent was to create a new way of saying uniforms. I spent a lot of time putting together color combinations to represent shiz. We landed on the teal and coral combination that you see represented in the shiz sweater. That's a take on uniform cardigan with a stripe, but I've changed it into a swirl pattern. I decided that the ASEAN way would be to deconstruct the uniform shape. It speaks to individuality. I wanted to create a world within shiz that felt very inclusive and was all about self-expression. I can point out Mrs. Throp's dress, and the reason it's red is because it's a poppy turned upside down. The idea of poppies relates to the potion that she drinks and just her as a potential addict or a user, and she also has a silk poppy that's at her waist. There's an origami spiral that is on the wizard's ascot, and then it ends in an eye, but that same origami spiral is on the buttons in all of Oz. My big favorites is the silver and crystal slipper on Nessa Rose. It starts with a tornado that is spiraling up the heel. It creates the heel, and then it opens up, and then the spirals are surrounding the foot. And then there's the ruby slipper of The Wizard of Oz, the 1939 film. I knew that I was going to be faced with a lot of questions around what is already part of the culture of Wizard of Oz and of Wicked, because many of those audience members being huge Wicked fans, everyone is going to come in with a preconceived notion of who the characters are, what they look like, how we're going to tell the story potentially. I want for anyone who comes in to see our Wicked to really get swept away into a world that feels fully complete, and that was everyone's hope.
And there are already replicas being made.
Very good. Oh my gosh. For people to take this kind of care, because I know that it takes a lot of hours to make costumes. And there's great care that's being used in creating these costumes. I think that's really beautiful. It's beautiful for me to have had that effect on other people and have people get excited about my work. I wonder if it took the 225 hours that it takes for us to make one of those dresses. She's actually hand beading all the bubbles. Wow, that's amazing. And she's got the crown, and she's got the wand.
Which costume took the longest to create?
The bubble dress.
Which costume was the most challenging to design?
The bubble dress and Elphaba's Emerald City.
Which costume was the hardest to bring to life?
It was the bubble dress.
What was the last one that you created?
Oh God. It is Elphaba, and it is in the second film, and I can't tell you what it is, but it's where she ends up. We're at a time in our lives that being able to get swept away into a fantasy world is so necessary. It's in balance for everything that's going on. So I'm really excited that I could be a part of that.